Hey guys, it's me, Mr. 250, and welcome back to Banshee's Last Cry. Now, last thing that we did here was Faberge came to our room and we kind of tried to act all nonchalant about it, but we tried to go in and then all of a sudden he forces his way in and he's like, "Who are you?" And we said, "I should be asking you that." I asked you first. He wrenched my arms higher up my back. Cut it out. I've got nothing to do with any of this. Oh, nothing to do with what? Oh, crap. I put my foot in my mouth with that one. Who do you work for? Spit it out or I'll make you sorry you didn't. I know lots of ways to make people talk. I don't work for anyone. Want to find out what it feels like to have a hot bamboo sliver shoved under your fingernails? Fingertips have thousands of nerves in them. There's nothing more painful in the world. Just thinking about it made my fingers hurt. Or instead of your fingers, I could work on your teeth. I'll pull them out one by one. No anesthesia. Before they're all out, you'll be choking on your own blood. But that's not the worst part of it. I'll shove toothpicks into your exposed nerves. Okay, I'll tell you everything, I swear. Good kid. Now, I asked who you worked for. Is it France? Or maybe... His final sentence ended with an abrupt grunt. I felt the pressure on my arms release. From the corner of my eye, I saw Faberge collapse onto his side on the floor. When I got up, I turned around and Grace was standing there. Grace. That was pathetic, Max. You call yourself a man? Considering the size advantage Faberge had, I didn't think that was very fair. Besides, I didn't have any training in this kind of thing. You look like you want to say something. What is it? Nothing. Fine, now help me check his clothes. She said it very matter-of-factly as if she'd said help me wash the dishes. In any case, we turned over Faberge's body and started looking through his pockets. How did you knock him out anyway? She didn't seem to have any weapon in her hand, so I was genuinely puzzled. Knife hand to the side of the neck. If you hit the right spot, it doesn't take much force. Doesn't look like he's carrying anything. Let's check out his room. Huh? Me too? Of course. Aren't you worried about leaving a little girl all alone? No, I'm not worried at all. I wouldn't exactly call someone who could knock out a guy as big and strong as Faberge with a knife hand to the neck a little girl. Grace gave me a hurt look. You're mean. I thought you liked me. It's got nothing to do with me not liking you. As I watched, Grace's eyes began to fill with tears. Okay, I'll go with you. As soon as I relented, she wiped her tears away, gave me a big smile, and said in a crisp voice, "Glad you changed your mind." Those tears just now. I had been tricked by some expert acting, hadn't I? Right. Let's tie this guy up and stick him in the closet. Okay. I wasn't going to argue with her. Grace quickly pulled off Faberge's belt and tied up his legs. Then she took off his shirt and used it to tie his arms behind his back. Finally, she made a gag out of a towel from the bathroom, and together we dragged him into the closet. How many towels do we have here? I was gradually getting to the point where I didn't care what she made me do. Making sure no one was in the hallway, we slipped out of my room and stood in front of Faberge's door. Fortunately, it wasn't locked, so Grace went in and I followed. There was a large ski bag in the corner of the room that Grace went straight to and unzipped. After moving aside some articles of clothing, she discovered a number of electronic devices, among them something that looked like a pistol. It's a wireless receiver, and this is a signal flare. When he discovered the Banshee, he was planning to signal other agents nearby to come running. Other agents? They're people just sitting out there in the snowstorm? They're probably securing the roof. I'm sure they're somewhere close by. After all, it would take more than one person to bring the Banshee back over international lines, right? He wouldn't go without a fight. Trust me on that one. Grace kept talking as she searched. After a moment, she came upon his passport. It appeared to be a normal Canadian one, but when she opened it, I saw that the name on it was Richard Hilton. The photo was Faberge without a doubt. Grace busied herself closely examining the stamps. Lots of trips to the U.S. Wonder if he's one of the boys from Langy. Langy? Suddenly, I remember where I heard the name before. Langley, Virginia, home of the CIA headquarters. If he's from America, shouldn't you be working together? I thought it was a simple question, but Grace looked at me incredulously. Are you crazy? Even with people you think would be friendly, you have to stay on your guard in this business. Everyone wants to get their hands on the Banshee as a negotiating tool. Working with anyone else is out of the question. That made sense. From a paranoid kind of perspective anyway. So Faubers was just one of many people after the Banshee. That meant that one of the 3 remaining guests, either Jones or one of the Buchanans, must be the elusive spy. What did you think about Jones? I asked. He's just in his room, being a good boy. I bugged him, but he's not making a peep in there. Could he be the Banshee, you think? Well, he's certainly the most suspicious. If it wasn't the Banshee who killed Tiffany, then who do you think it was? We can worry about that after we find him. The him. Tiffany was no ordinary person, so I suppose she knew the risks, but I still felt that Grace's attitude was pretty shockingly cold. I wonder if she would return to being the Grace I thought I knew when this mission was over. Or was she just taking advantage of me the whole time I knew her? Okay, let's get out of here. Grace put her ear to the door to make sure no one was in the hallway, then slipped out. I hurried after her. Grace walked to my room, as if it was the most natural thing in the world. After going inside, she checked on Faubers in the closet. He was still knocked out with his eyes closed, just as we left him. She made sure the bonds were tight, then quickly closed the curtains. Hope you don't mind if I use the bathroom. Grace said suddenly she went to open the door. If you don't mind the... I was just about to say body, when suddenly... Ah! A woman jumped out of the bathroom and attacked Grace. Oh God, did she come back to life? Grace screamed, "Don't just stand there, do something!" It was just then that I saw that the girl with the glasses, Molly Starks. She was swinging an ice pick, aiming squarely for Grace's face. She should talk to the witch from Moving Echo. She had discovered the body of her dead acquaintance, and was clearly out for revenge. Let's see, so I ran forward to put Molly in a full Nelson from behind, so I aimed at a kick at the ice pick. That one sounds iffy. Thinking I could clear up the misunderstanding, I tried to talk to her, also probably not the best. But I ran forward and put Molly in a full Nelson from behind. Just before the ice pick buried itself in Grace's skull, I managed to secure her in a stronghold. Stop! We didn't kill her! Just then, I heard a sound behind me. Someone had been hiding behind the bed. By the time I tried to turn around, it was too late, and I felt some kind of string wrap around my throat. I slipped a couple of fingers underneath before it squeezed tight, and that's when I realized it was no string. It was a thin strand of something like piano wire. Just one touch was enough to cut my fingers. It was razor sharp. The wire tightened suddenly and began to bite deeply into my fingers and throat. He has nothing to do with this. Take your hands off of him, Grace barked in a commanding voice. For a brief moment, the pressure on the wire relaxed. Then tell me who you are. The woman behind me, Debbie Mason, spoke softly, but the volume did nothing to hide her incredibly dangerous edge to her voice. All right, tell her to back off and I will. Without further prompting, Molly stepped back. Grace got up and, after a quick adjustment of her hair and clothing, started to speak. I work for the CSIS, the Canadian Security Intelligence Service, but naturally I don't officially exist. And this guy? Asked Debbie. He's a civilian. I brought him here for camouflage. So why did he kill her? There was a flash of anger that exposed a not-so-professional side of her. He couldn't have. When I got here last night, he was practically unconscious from the drugs your friend slipped him. Someone else killed her. Whoever finds the body is usually the main suspect, isn't he? Molly said in a nasty tone. Grace just shrugged her shoulders. Suspect all you want. But ask yourself, does the Canadian side really want her dead? The two girls, I suppose you can call them the French spies at this moment, looked at each other. A moment later, I could sense that the dangerous atmosphere in the room had lessened. The crisis had passed, at least. Okay, so who's the guy in the closet? They'd plainly been searching the room before we came back. When we came in, they'd run into the bathroom to hide. Probably CIA. So, where's the Banshee? We were hoping you could tell us. There was a heavy silence before Molly spoke. When this is all over, promise me you'll mourn for her. She seemed to be referring to the body in the bathroom. Grace nodded solemnly. Just then, there was a knocking sound. Hurry, hide in the bathroom, Grace whispered. But the two girls were already on the move. Grace made sure that they closed the door tightly before she was going to answer the knock. Abby was standing there. She seemed surprised to find Grace. Oh, so this is where you were. I can't find the owner. Do you know where he is? No. Colleen doesn't know either? No. Did something bad happen? I could sense an air of anxiety growing in the room. I'll come with you. What about you, Max? I thought for a moment and then answered, I'll come too. I didn't want to be left here. I'll be safer with Grace, I thought. Okay, so... Grace whispered something in Abby's ear. Let's go, she said, as she pulled me by the arm. What about Abby? She's going to take care of her friends for us. She nodded in the direction of the bathroom and whispered in my ear. Take care of? She's going to put them to sleep with some sleeping gas. Now, let's go see my uncle. We went downstairs and decided to investigate the basement. The door to the cellar was unlocked. Carefully, Grace started down the stairs. Is he down here? I don't know, but there's nowhere else he could be. Uncle Bill, are you there? Grace called out, but there was no answer. Just then, I felt something hard press up against my back. Go on, get down there, growled a distinctive Texas drawl. We both put our hands up. Just keep y'all's trap shut and move it. Try anything funny, and the kid here's gonna have 2 new holes in his chest. 1 entry, 1 exit. Grace walked slowly down the stairs, staying within sight of both of us. I looked around the basement as I descended, but there was no sign of Mr. Forrest. At the bottom, I turned around, making sure my hands were still raised. Mr. Buchanan was standing on the stairs, a gun pointed straight in my direction. Okay, which one of y'all is the Banshee? Banshee? What are you talking about? Grace asked, playing dumb. Nope, neither one of you's the Banshee. You're working for your country? Seeing Grace close her mouth tightly, Buchanan grinned and laughed. Bullseye, huh? I see. In that case, the Banshee must be... Just then, from somewhere in the inn came the sound of an ear-splitting explosion. For a split second, Buchanan looked away from us and glanced up at the ceiling. Seizing the chance, Grace grabbed a wine bottle from a shelf and hurled it at his face. Urgh! The heavy bottle struck Buchanan in the elbow and fell to the ground, scattering broken bits of glass everywhere. By the time Buchanan could reposition his gun, Grace had circled behind him and chopped him hard on the neck with the edge of her hand. He collapsed slowly into the pool of spilled wine. As I stood there watching, jaw wide open, Grace brought me back to my senses with a harsh command. Hurry, let's grab the Banshee. What about this guy? He should stay out for a while. Now hurry. Grace stepped around Buchanan, and I followed her. Grab the Banshee? Who is it anyway? It's neither of the Buchanans. It's not the girls, and it's not Faberge. There's only one person left. You mean Mr. Jones? Grace nodded. Yes? I heard a voice that didn't sound nervous at all, and the door opened briskly. Even though Mr. Jones was inside his room, he was wearing the same sunglasses and even had the same hat on. Grace smiled at him. I'd like to talk to you for a minute. Is that okay? He seemed to size us up for a few moments, then shrugged his shoulders. Sure, why not? Maybe he knows his identity is blown and has given up hiding. I thought as we entered his room. As soon as we walked in, we noticed a notebook spread out on his desk. He saw us looking at it and anxiously clapped it shut. So, what do you want? Mr. Jones asked, sounding somewhat flustered. Well, first, let me say that we already know who you are. He was clearly shaken for a moment, but, like a real pro, he quickly recovered his composure. Is that right? Well, I guess there's nothing more to say then. So what now? Naturally, we negotiate. Negotiate? Oh, so you're from here? I suppose you meant that Grace was on the Canadian side. She nodded. The Banshee grinned malevolently as he laid down on the bed. What are you offering me then? Money? Everyone needs some, right? Grace said. Of course. Everyone needs money. You're absolutely correct. So, how much are we talking about? As much as you want. Name it. As much as I want? Yes. He licked his lips and appeared to be thinking. Just then, we heard a voice from behind us. If you don't mind, we'd kind of like to be involved in this too. Turning around, we saw Mr. and Mrs. Buchanan standing in the open doorway. Don't anybody move, Miss Buchanan yelled out before Grace could react. She pointed a large gun equipped with a silencer. More like a machine gun now that I think about it at Grace. She froze in place. I won't let my guard down around you. You make one move and they'll have to pick your pieces of you off the wall. Amber's voice was sounding incongruously pleasant. Looking shocked, the Banshee yelled out at Amber. What? Who are you people? Get out of here! Mr. Buchanan smiled, closed the door and answered him. No point in acting dumb, boy. Now, as far as negotiation goes, you can go on and accept the offer these two just made. Only thing that's going to change is now you're going to be making the deal with us. Before the Banshee could respond, Grace interrupted. A silencer-equipped Uzi? That's some heavy firepower. Is Mossad planning on starting a war? Mossad? Isn't that some kind of Indian curry? That's mal salad, you idiot, Grace said as if reading my thoughts. Mossad's the Israeli Secret Service. Israeli Secret Service? Buchanan grinned as he replied to her. You don't think maybe we just use Uzis so we look like Mossad? At this point, I couldn't tell up from down anymore. Suddenly, something was tossed at my feet. Looking down, I saw it was a coil of vinyl rope. Tie her up. Me? That's right. And I'll check your handiwork later, so if you try something funny, you'll be sorry. I'll be sorry? Amber's eyes glittered sadistically as she grinned at me. That's right. I think it'd be kind of fun to blow off your kneecaps. Or maybe... She never got the chance to make her second proposal, because suddenly the bathroom door flew open and a shadowy figure leaped out onto her. Miss Buchanan wrestled with it, her machine gun falling to the floor. I reached out to grab it, but before I could, someone else's hand extended out, snatched the gun, and once again pointed it at me. Not so fast, not this time. My eyes followed the gun barrel upwards until they were met by the furious gaze of Molly. She was joined by Debbie, who was busy pinning Miss Buchanan down on the floor. I thought they were locked up in my bathroom. In any case, they had saved us in the nick of time. Really? Had they? But how? I managed to stammer. Molly smiled. You blocked the door from the outside, but fortunately, these two bathrooms are connected through the ceiling. Now, I don't know if anyone remembers this, but you remember that a long time ago? Not that long ago, but when we were searching Mr. Jones's room in the original story, we found a hole in the roof and we didn't see anything up there. That was actually the hole that connected both ours and Mr. Jones's rooms. And I don't believe it has any other importance other than in just this little bit of the story, by the way. I don't think it was used in the original murder. Anyway, so they escaped through the ventilation or something. Stop! Just stop it already! Everyone turned to the sound of this pathetic scream. Mr. Jones, the presumptive Banshee, was curled up in between the two beds, shivering and crying. This little whimpering baby is the Banshee? Debbie said contemptuously as she stood up, having finished her battle with Amber. Amber lay stretched out on the ground, but when Mr. Buchanan crawled over to check on her, I could see that she wasn't dead. Anyway, let's get this guy out of here. You go back to the room and call for backup. I'll stay here and keep an eye on these guys. Molly kept the machine gun trained on us as Debbie hurried out of the room. Backup? So there are other agents around here? It was looking like the Banshee was about to fall into the French hands. I didn't care much what happened to him at this point, though. I just wanted to get out of this stupid inn alive. But clearly, that wasn't what Grace was thinking. Gritting her teeth, she opened her mouth. You're fooling yourself if you think you can get out of here. What? You think you can stop us? Molly laughed haughtily. All we have to do is contact them on our wireless, and the SDECE Special Forces will swarm this place. The CSIS and the Canadian cabinet can't do a thing to stop it. She had to be right because I switched the page, I thought, because Grace bit her lip in frustration and didn't say a word in response. If you can contact them, that is, a voice on the other side of the door said. Molly waved her machine gun, ordering Mr. Buchanan to open it. Slowly, he made his way over to the door, turned the knob, and pulled it open. Debbie was standing there with a gun pointed at her temple. Behind her was none other than the fake Inn employee and CSIS agent, Abby McCarthy. Grace, take that nasty piece off our friend's hands, would you? Oops. Don't you make a move either, Chubby. Mr. Buchanan grunted disapprovingly at his new nickname, but he didn't move a muscle. Grace grabbed the machine gun from Molly's hands. Backing up until she was firmly against the wall, she pointed it at the massive people in the room. Max, get Mr. Jones out of here now. I didn't have any better options, so I did what she said. Alright, which one am I supposed to do? Come on, let's go, I said in my best tough guy voice. I grabbed the arm of Mr. Jones, who was peeking from behind the bed. Hey, Al, you don't have to be so rough. I ignored his complaints as I passed by Abby and dragged him out into the hall. Grace, her gun still trained on everybody, backed out of the room after us. Abby gave Debbie a quick, hard shove into the room and briskly shut the door. I'll stay here and keep guard. You go downstairs and find the boss. Grace nodded and handed Abby the machine gun, taking her handgun in exchange. Together, we walked down the hallway like two overly protective parents, Mr. Jones right between us. The inn was literally crawling with spies, but finally, just about all of them were stuck in one room. The remaining one, a CIA agent, was currently knocked out, gagged and tied in my closet. I wonder if it's going to stay that way. In other words, the only ones walking around free were on our side. Realizing that, I felt I could relax a little bit, but I knew it wasn't possible. But my breath felt like I'd been holding my breath for the last 5 minutes. We went down the stairs into the front desk. The owner's room was right behind the counter. You think Mr. Forrest is here? Well, if not, Colleen is, so we should be okay. I guess she meant after Forrest. Colleen was the number 2 person in charge. Grace knocked on the door to what must have been Mr. Forrest's room. There was no answer. She turned the knob. The door that should have been locked opened without a sound. The first thing I saw was what looked like a normal family kitchen. That's weird. Bill? Colleen? Are you here? No response. Suddenly alert, we stepped into the room. Sensing something nearby, I quickly turned and spotted Bobby standing there. Oh, Bobby. Have you seen the boss or Colleen? No, I haven't. This guy? He's really the Banshee? Bobby's eyes narrowed as he seemed to appraise Mr. Jones. No, Mr. Jones answered before Grace had even had a chance to open her mouth. I don't know anything about this Banshee guy. He's still playing dumb, but yeah, he's the Banshee, no doubt about it. Doesn't surprise me. Well, I'll take him out here. You? Grace asked suspiciously. That's the plan, boss's orders. I wasn't informed. He shrugged. That doesn't surprise me either. We don't have time to waste. I'll leave the guys on the second floor to you and Abby. Bobby took Mr. Jones by the arm. Wait, Grace said, putting her hand lightly on his wrist. It's too dangerous for you to go outside without calling in for help. Bobby laughed quietly. Don't worry. I've already secured a safe route. Okay, you're coming with me. Pulling Mr. Jones by the arm, Bobby left. That's weird. Isn't it strange that he's going out the back door? Just when I started to think that it wasn't really that strange, Grace started to go after them. Hey, Grace. I hurried after her. Grace shouted sharply at the pair just as they were about to go out the back door. Bobby, you'll freeze to death like that. She held her gun, pointed at Bobby, who turned around slowly. The expression on his face didn't change in the slightest. Hey now, what's this all about? Instead of answering him, Grace turned to me. Max, I'm sorry, but would you mind searching the rooms a little more thoroughly? Rooms? What rooms? Start with Mr. Forrest's room first, then go to Bobby's. Bobby's face went pale. Hey, that's enough with the jokes already. I'm not joking, don't move. I stood there confused, looking back and forth between him. But when I saw the serious, determined look on Grace's face, I made up my mind. Trusting in her, I ran back to the previous room. And we're going to leave it there for right now, but I hope you guys enjoyed so far. And next time I think we're going to wrap up this story, I believe is how it's going to go. We're going to wrap up this main route. And then there are a couple other, let's see, I think there's maybe 2 other short endings that we'll be picking up as well next time, I would imagine, if we still have time. And then we'll be able to move out of the spy chapter and onto the next one, which is also a very similarly short one. Anyway, I hope you guys are enjoying this so far, and I'll see you next time for more Banshee's Last Cry. Bye!